Far in the north of Europe lies a land where nature rules in its purest form, where the mountains meet the sea and the sky itself becomes a canvas of light. This is Norway, raw, majestic, and unforgettable. Carved by glaciers over millions of years, Norway's fjords are some of the most dramatic landscapes on Earth. Deep blue waters cut through towering cliffs, while waterfalls tumble down like silver threads. Every turn of the boat reveals a view more beautiful than the last. For the adventurous, Norway offers trails that feel like stairways to the heavens. From the jaw-dropping Trolltunga to the edge of Preikestolen, nature dares you to explore. In the Arctic Circle, the Lofoten Islands rise like dragon teeth from the sea, wild, remote, and magical. When the sun sets for days in the polar winter, the skies above Norway come alive. The aurora borealis, or northern lights, paint the night with green, purple, and gold. In places like Tromsø and Svalbard, this light show is nature's most mysterious gift. But Norway is a land of opposites. In summer, the sun never truly sets. In the north, days stretch into nights, and nights feel like days. This is the midnight sun, where time feels endless and nature never sleeps. Norway's cities are quiet, clean, and deeply connected to nature. Oslo, the capital, is a city of contrasts. Modern architecture meets forest trails. Museums like the Fram and Viking Ship Museum tell tales of explorers and seafarers who once ruled the waves. In Bergen, colorful wooden houses line the harbor, a postcard come to life. Once a hub of the Hanseatic League, today it's a city where culture and coastal charm blend effortlessly. Farther north, meet the Sami people, the indigenous heart of Norway. With their own language, traditions, and reindeer herding lifestyle, they represent the spirit of the Arctic and a deep respect for the land. Norway's wilderness is alive with creatures of every kind. Watch the majestic moose wander through forests, puffins nesting on coastal cliffs, and whales gliding silently through icy waters. If you're lucky, you might even glimpse an elusive Arctic fox. Life in Norway is simple, peaceful, and deeply rooted in nature. Norwegians seek friluftsliv, the open-air life, where spending time outdoors is a way of being. From snowy cabins to warm saunas, every moment is about harmony with the land. One of the world's most beautiful train journeys, the Flåm Railway, takes you from snow-covered peaks to green valley floors in under an hour. It's a reminder that in Norway, every journey is a destination. Norway is not just a place you visit, it's a place you feel. In every mountain, in every wave, in every moment of light and silence. This is a land of wonder, where Earth still breathes freely and the soul finds peace. This is Norway, wild, luminous, eternal.